Today, we're going to go back to week 3 of college football and see what draft eligible prospects help their stock and hurt their stock. Welcome to the Stock Report, and what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo. Just in case you did not know, so go ahead, become bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content as always. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse. I got some hot tea right here, soothing my voice. Got to keep the voice moist. That's good hot tea, but let's go ahead, take a look at this sucker, starting with the game that we actually watched this past Saturday, being LSU versus Mississippi State. And we got to talk Jaden Daniels because for me personally, he is a guy that is moving up my board. It's notable to say last year I wasn't that high going into the draft on DTR, Dorian Thompson Robinson. Did I get that right? DTR, former UCLA quarterback. I didn't really like the decision making. I thought he was careless with the football. And I thought he might end up being a guy that switches positions at the NFL because he's that athletically gifted. But he ends up going to the 5th round, had a very impressive preseason for the Browns. And we're looking at a Jaden Daniels here, right? A guy who is a very impressive athlete, but the decision making hasn't always been great, especially when you take a look at the big time throw rate. Granted, he formerly came from Arizona State, played 3 years there, and he was in a very simplistic offense where it was screens and goes, essentially, and then make plays with your feet. And he transferred to LSU just last season. He led the Tigers to the SEC championship game while dealing with a knee and ankle injury. He would miss the bowl game because of it. But I mean, thus far 3 games in, and it's not like your typical cupcake schedule. He opened with Florida State, then you get the cupcake and Grambling, and then Mississippi State, which they may not be a great team, but they're a solid team. They're a good team, and they smacked them. He has been phenomenal. He really has, because I think he has an NFL arm, and honestly, I think it might be probably better than DTR's. And he's shown good developments as a passer since dating from his Sun Devil days, so to speak. He's coming in at 6'4", 210, had a phenomenal game against Mississippi State. 361 yards, only 4 incompletions and 4 total touchdowns, 2 passing and 2 running. Yeah, this guy can pick it up with his feet. He is legitimately a dual threat quarterback, as he has like 2,800 career rushing yards. He already has I think 26, 27 rushing touchdowns over the course of his career. And he actually runs with good play strength, got a nasty stiff arm. He's a very vocal leader there for LSU, and his accuracy has gotten so much better. Is the ball placement exactly ideal right now? No, but his accuracy has improved, and it's less all over the place than it was last season. He's got a strong arm, and sometimes, yes, the ball will sail on him. So I really think he just needs to learn to throw with that zip downfield, but he has been very impressive. I think he's kind of come leaps and bounds. He's not this developmental prospect or project at this point. And maybe we need to start talking about him potentially as a day 2 pick. I think that's kind of where I'm at with Jaden Daniels. At the very least, man, this guy's probably a 4th rounder right now. And there shouldn't really be questions about, is he going to have a position change? Because I don't even necessarily think that will be true. I really, really don't. Very impressive outing from Jaden Daniels. And likewise, his teammate Malik Neighbors had to make the list because I'm going to be talking about a lot of receivers today. But Malik Neighbors was phenomenal. He had 188 yards going into halftime. Ends the game with 13 receptions, and that's on 13 targets. 239 yards and 2 touchdowns. Should have been 3, but he stepped out right before the end zone. He was phenomenal. He didn't really have to showcase his after the catch ability. He was just winning downfield, and it makes you think, man, this guy is a lot more put together than you once thought, because he does have that after the catch ability. He really does. I think last season he had 21 forced missed tackles. This year he already has 7. Granted, 6 came from that Grambling game, but again, he didn't really need to do much of anything against Mississippi State. He really didn't. Like, he's gonna be in this consistent discussion at wide receiver too, with the likes of like a Keon Coleman, Emeka Ibuka, who is wide receiver 2 in this class. Like, Malik Neighbors has a great claim to be that. He's coming in at 6 foot, 200 pounds. He is a true junior, and yeah, man, the dude is phenomenal. I think he's starting to clean up, not necessarily clean up, but he's starting to look more sharp, more crisp as a route runner, and I kind of like that. Run game, I still don't think he's very beneficial. But again, I don't really care. What can you do for me as a weapon? Because this is a guy that can work inside and out. He's gonna test out extremely well. He ran, if you go back to his high school numbers, ran a 4.440, had a 40.5 vertical jump. Yeah, that's already very impressive numbers. This guy's just smooth, and like this receiving class is legitimately really good. And actually, we're gonna go to the other game that honestly probably should have did a watch along for this game, but it was late. I kind of want to just enjoy it to myself. But we're gonna go to the Colorado game with Tori Holt out of Colorado State. If you weren't familiar with the name before, you better get familiar with it now. He was someone on my summer watch list that I just managed not to get to. And after the big game he had Saturday, Sunday, I went back and kind of watched some of his stuff the year prior. And I didn't go back watch his Nevada stuff because, okay, if you're unfamiliar with him, he's coming at 6'2", 190. He was former 3-star recruit from Washington Union High School. He's actually the youngest of 5 siblings, with his oldest brother serving in the Army. One of his other brothers used to play corner, I believe, for Boise State. He was actually a first team back-to-back all Mountain West. And then his sister plays volleyball overseas. So there's some pedigree there. He played football, basketball, and baseball. All the big 3. Love to see it. He started his career there at Nevada under Jay Norval, which that's kind of key how he ends up at Colorado State. He only had about 7 starts his first 2 seasons. And then Jay Norvell took the job at Colorado State. Tori Holt, Horton followed him. I said Tori Holt. Subliminal, baby. But he followed him, and then last year had a big year, started all 12 games, was first team all Mountain West, just like his brother. Gotta love to see it. And then he has an absolute banger of a game against Colorado. 15 receptions for 134 yards and a tutty. Like I said, get familiar with this guy, because he's got, you look at 6'2", 190, and it's like, okay, it's not that big, but like he is long. Like, he's got long strides. He has this huge catch radius. Like, okay, yeah, like 6'2", that ain't, like, that's fine. That's good. That's good size, but like he's so much longer than that. It's kind of wild. I think he has the versatility to play inside and out, though he did play a majority of the time on the outside for both Nevada and Colorado State. But he's such a good route runner, a smooth mover. He understands how to attack leverage, and he can close that cushion between him and the corner if they're playing off. I like how he changes the direction. He just knows how to separate. He really does. And I really like how he high points the football and just attacks the ball in air on the short to intermediate routes. One of my big pet peeves with him is, though, when going back looking, is he doesn't have that same type of attack mentality when it comes to the deep ball. He kind of lets it come to him. And we kind of understood that, like Quentin Johnston last season for TCU, that was something that, well, kind of was a big concern. And that's kind of where I see Tori Horton, at least his big problem. doesn't have like elite speed or quicks, but they're fine at the next level. Like I'm already kind of sold on him. He had 15 forced missed tackles last season, and he's just tough to bring down, man. Big body, he can absorb contact, and I love how he plays the run game. Like, this guy gets after it. He's a dog. Woof woof, bark bark. He is a straight dog. He will lay a definite hits, like highlight worthy hit sticks, if he needs to deliver a block, man. He's got some monster blocks up in there. One thing I did note was like, okay, he looks thin, but again, that's because he's long. Talked about how he didn't really attack the ball the same downfield as he did on the intermediate and underneath. And also, this one kind of could be an anomaly, that his drop percentage was actually relatively high in 2022. It was, oh, here, I have it right here. It was 10.1. But if you look, going back to Nevada, his drop rate in Nevada was like 4.5. So that's a really good number. He hasn't dropped a ball yet this season. So I'm thinking maybe last year was just maybe an anomaly with that. So I'm not too worried. He actually is pretty solid at the contested catch, but definitely a guy to keep on the radar. I want to stick with this game, but I do want to give a shout out to Rome Ondunze, who had a really good outing against Michigan State, where he had 8 receptions, 180 yards. He's just been going off this season along with the rest of that Washington offense. You could also talk about Jalen McMillan here, the other receiver. We could talk about Jalen Polk, who I think could be also a draftable prospect there out of Washington. So we're talking about all their receivers potentially being draftable prospects. But yeah, man, Odunze, really, really solid performance this past weekend. We didn't see any drops because if you remember, he had drops the prior week, but only 2 drops on this season, and all stemming from the Tulsa game. And yeah, he's not a guy that's going to be doing much after the catch, but you do like how he's just kind of a physical freak at 6'3", 215. He really, really is. And he attacks the catch point much like a power forward or a center would. I think he is 5'6" on contested catches this season. So I kind of want to mention him, kind of group it up with the rest of those Washington receivers. But let's go ahead and stick with this game and talk about Muhammad Kamara, the edge out of Colorado State. Had a big game, 3 pressures, 3 defensive stops, 2 sacks. Did get ejected, I think it was in overtime, right? For targeting for his hit on Shadur Sanders. But this dude has been very solid for Colorado State for quite some time. If we're going to go ahead and look at his background real quick, former 3-star recruit out of the 2019 class. His brother Amara Kamara, that's kind of wild, played football at Temple, and that's all the way back in 2007, 2010. So his brother is significantly older than he is. But when Kamara arrived here at Colorado State, he did have 4 starts in the 8 games he played his freshman season. In the shortened 2020 year, he played all 4 of the games with 3 starts. And then he became the full-time starter. Well, actually, he was heavily utilized as a rotation player in 2021. Then he became the full-time starter in 2022, where he had 53 pressures, 6 sacks. This season, through 2 games, he already has 9 pressures, 3 sacks. So the dude has been good. He's going to be on a lot of people's radar. Coming in at 6'1", 250. I don't think he has ideal length, but he's got really good get off and a really, really good motor, real high intensity. I do want to see him kind of clean up as a tackler in run defense, but it's something like over the course of his career, it's been a very, he's hit that average mark. This year, it's just a little up, but also because we're talking about a smaller volume, smaller sample size, but definitely a name to keep on the radar. And actually, I kind of want to stick with this game real quick and kind of mention another prospect from Colorado State that was getting some shine. Dallin Holker, the tight end for Colorado State. I know this is all Colorado State, guys. Listen, I touched up on a lot of Colorado players last couple of weeks. Shadur, talked about Weaver last week. I could probably talk about Jimmy Horn. He did have kind of the game tying touchdown, so to speak. But I went to look at the tight end. He's at 215, but he's not eligible this season. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's just someone to kind of put in my back pocket for next year. But Holker here, coming out of Colorado State, 6'5", 235, and you know what? Yeah, he's fast. He moves like it. Showed really good hands, and a lot of people are really talking about him. I think I saw Brett Coleman, Jim Nagy kind of tweeted out about him. So I went ahead and did a little research because he hasn't played a ton. That's kind of the thing with him. He hasn't seen the field a ton. He was actually formerly a BYU guy, which I saw that. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be old as dirt. But he actually did his mission trip because he is actually an older prospect. He came out of the 2018 class as a 3-star, and he played every game. Didn't really see a big chunk of usage in 2018 as a freshman, but decided to go on his, typically they have 2-year mission trips, right? And he went on one in 2019 actually to Chile. He came to return for the 2020 season, but considering the whole pandemic was happening, so he decided to do another year-long mission trip, this time in Washington State. And he didn't return to the team till 2021, where Isaac Rex was kind of the guy there. He was the starter. He did manage to get 4 starts there, and 2022, he 3 games into the season, he decides to enter the transfer portal, which it's kind of wild because he decides to go to Colorado State because his girlfriend, who ran track at BYU, was going to Colorado State. So he's only here because his girlfriend. That's kind of wild, but he's making big plays. Jim Nagy's thrown him on the Senior Bowl watch list. We've seen what he could do as an athlete. Again, kind of a bigger sample size is needed, and that's what this whole season's going to serve as. But very, very interesting that we came out of this game walking away with a few prospects. Listen, I know you love the NFL draft as much as I do, and you're going to want a nice hefty watch list of players during this college football season. Well, go ahead, check out my draft guide. You can purchase it for only $30 by Venmoing or PayPaling me. Links in the description. It's a one-time payment, and you get it for this whole draft cycle and forever and always. Technically, it's a Google spreadsheet, so send me your email when you send the payment. I'll get you hooked up. You will see my current prospect rankings and big board, my full evals, and guess what? It updates throughout the whole draft cycle. So it's a great purchase, and it's a great way to support the channel. All right, we're actually going to go to I believe this was the Friday game, Memphis versus Navy, and it's Blake Watson. I did do a summer eval of him, but he did not crack my top 10 running backs. A lot of that has to do with his size, looking at a 5'9", 195, but he transferred after having a big year at Old Dominion. He transferred to Memphis. He did come from the 2018 class, so he's probably going to be an older prospect. So spent 5 years at Old Dominion. Had a big year in 2022. Graduated, transferred as a grad to Memphis, and he has been ridiculous for Memphis. This last game, 11 carries for 169 yards, had a tutty, should have had 2 tutties, but he fumbled on his way into the goal line. But he added 68 receiving yards, and this was kind of the big emergence game. He had 8 forced missed tackles in this game, and I think he had added another 4 missed tackles as a receiver. So kind of huge. I hope they utilize him more and more. He wasn't nearly as effective the the prior week against Arkansas State. But I didn't watch that game, so I couldn't really tell you much about it. But this was a very huge outing if we're going to talk about what he brings to the table, because you can see, yes, he is a smaller athlete, which probably means he's a great athlete, and he is. He's incredibly quick. He's got home run speed. He actually broke a big run, a 69-yarder. There we go. 69-yarder in the Navy game. Nice. But again, incredibly quick. Light feet. The short stature really allows him to get to top speed pretty quickly because his feet are hitting the ground real quick. He's got them itty bitties. And just combine that with his ability to his change of direction, stop start ability, and just the dude is just lethal, whether he's going vertical or lateral, horizontal. It's just nice. And he brings that to the receiving game. He's also got return capabilities. He is the legit definition of miss him and he's gone. The dude's a competitor. That's something I noticed on his ODU tape when I watched it this summer, that he was willing to take on contact and try to fight through it. Like, his height kind of allows him to get good leverage on would-be tacklers, and he's just so competitive even at the catch point. Like, he's capable of high point in the football. Like, it is definitely a solid prospect, but again, the size is kind of working against him. Him going to Memphis, it's not like the competition's that much better than it was at ODU. If you do go back and look at how he did against Power 5 schools, and again, we have to go back to 2022 because he's yet to face a Power 5 school there on Memphis' schedule. But if you go back to it, he had 2 games against the Power 5, which I imagine were Virginia and Virginia Tech, being at Old Dominion. Can't remember off the top of my head, but he only had 40 carries. I said only. That's actually a good amount. 40 carries, but only 130 yards, a fumble, a touchdown. So again, competition, not stellar, but someone who, in terms of being a smaller back, someone to keep an eye on. I don't think it's like to the degree of a, who was the East Carolina running back last year? Keaton Mitchell. I don't think it's that level. I was like in love with him. He should have been drafted. But I think Watson, I kind of like him in that mid day 3 range right now. Next on the list is Isaiah Adams out of Illinois. This is a stock down. In all fairness, we're going to talk about both Julian Pearl and Isaiah Adams, because Isaiah Adams at least has an excuse, right? So Isaiah Adams, I think, could be a solid guard prospect. I had a 5th round grade on him going into the season. We can do a quick rundown of him. Coming at 6'5", 315. He was an unranked recruit out of the 2018 class from Father Donald McLeland Catholic Secondary School in Ajax, Canada. Oh, Canada. He played football actually for the Durham Dolphins Football Club. Also played basketball and rugby, so kind of cool. He did spend his first 2 years in Canada playing football for Wilfrid, was it Laurel? Wilfrid Laurier University. I don't know. Regardless, I couldn't get anything. I couldn't get any like tape. Surprise. It's some college in Canada. I couldn't even get stats. But in 2020, he did go to Garden City Community College, where he played 2 seasons. He was a first team junior college All-American. And then at Illinois last season, he played 12 games at left guard, 1 at left tackle, made the Big Ten All Big Ten 3rd team. So a guy that has probably seen a lot of starting experience, depending on what he did over in Canada, but someone who took the step up in competition. It actually looked good last year. Now, he got destroyed this week at Penn State, but he is a guard. They were playing him at right freaking tackle, so no freaking kidding. He allowed 7 pressures, a sack, even a penalty. So I'm not down on him after this outing. I'm like, okay, he's not even going to play there, so it's fine. It's whatever. honestly, the stock down guy I have here, it's more Julian Pearl, who left tackle is your position, dog. You got that length, you got that athleticism. And he just got out athleticismed by was it Isaac Adisa? You have Chop Robinson there. Those two guys had big games. He allowed 7 pressures and 2 sacks. So honestly, more of an indictment there. But I did want to kind of talk about Isaiah Adams real quick, because I think he's a legit draft prospect. He will be an older guy. It's fine. I think from a technique standpoint, yeah, he's a bit raw. So no kidding, he struggled when they moved him out to tackle this week. But he's got a powerful frame, a lot of pop behind it. And honestly, not a terrible athlete for his size. Like, he's shown explosiveness out of his stance and some quick feet. So all in all, like, just want to kind of mention Adams here. You're going to look at the outing against Penn State. He's like, oh, this guy can't play well against good competition. He was playing out of position. Like, we could say that about Pearl, but I don't think you could really wholeheartedly, honestly say that about Adams. Next on the list, I have a Chris Braswell out of Alabama. He is the other Alabama edge player. Dallas Turner had himself a game as well, but I want to highlight Braswell here because, I mean, I've already talked about Turner coming into the season. But he's a former 5-star recruit out of the 2020 class, coming from St. Francis Academy in Baltimore, very highly decorated high school, I guess, where that's highly recruited out of. He is coming in at 6'3", 255, did redshirt his freshman season. And then in 2021, he was mainly a special teamer. And in 2022, he actually got into the rotation quite a bit with 330 snaps. This season, full-fledged starter. And he had himself a game against South Florida, which, okay, he should have. But I thought he played relatively solid and against Texas, where I felt like he was more of a rotation guy in that outing, but still saw 37 snaps this week, 66. Came out with 12 pressures, 7 defensive stops, and 2 sacks. Just utterly a ludicrous outing for him. He is a really good athlete. I think he made Bruce Feldman's freaks list this past off season for his vertical leap, which is 38 inches. The dude can squat over 700 pounds and he can power clean over 400 pounds. And you see that he's got a really good first step. He displays very good flexibility to bend the edge. I like the length. I like the violence he plays with. He's got pop in his hands. He does a good job of just not letting blockers like get engaged with him or latch on. And I think this season, the big improvement from him is the run defense. There's a little bit more discipline. He's doing a better job setting that edge. The length really has helped him as a finisher too, as a tackler. Like, they're one of their most consistent tacklers around the line of scrimmage. However, he's still putting it together as a pass rusher, I would say. Like, I think he's still he goes in and he's winning off his physical and athletic traits. There's no actual plan to pass rush there, which we know that won't work at the NFL level. You can only do so much with the traits you're given. But definitely someone I wanted to shout out here. I think Dane Brugler had him like 6th on his edge list. So, like, someone you should be watching out there along with Dallas Turner. It's not just a one-man show out there when it comes to the Alabama edge group. All right, we're going to remain with the defense with Danny Stutzman out of Oklahoma. I believe he made my top 10 linebackers going into the season. I could actually go and confirm that. Yeah, he made it. But I think he's starting to get into this day 2 conversation. He's coming in at 6'4", 241, had an outstanding outing against Tulsa, 11 tackles, 3 defensive stops, a pressure, and a pick freaking 6. Love to see it. Former 4-star recruit from the 2021 class, played receiver in high school as well as linebacker. His father actually played football for Baylor, and his mother played basketball for Baylor. And oh wow, his sister played softball at Florida State, who won the national championship in 2018. So that's kind of cool. Became a starter last season and just had a really, really good year. He led the Big 12 in tackles, and it's just kind of rinse and repeat for him this season. Like, and I think he's really starting to solidify his game. Like he's much better. He's more of a finisher as a tackler. His ability to stack and shed an anchor in the run game looks so much better this season. He already has 10 stops, defensive stops on the year. If you're not familiar with that, that's basically a tackle of no gain or negative yardage. So he's got 10 of those this season. 4 pressures on the season already with a sack. And he has the pick 6, and splash plays are kind of something I may want to see in more of in coverage from him. But in terms of a blitzer, like if they utilize him enough, then he's gonna hit home. Like he had 19 pressures and 4 sacks last season. So I wouldn't mind to see them get maybe a bit more aggressive in that regard as they kind of open up conference play here. But he's such an explosive athlete. He moves so well. It's literally sideline to sideline speed. He just plays with a big motor. And I mean, the moment he just hits that trigger on a play, man, he just accelerates, shows that closing speed. We saw it with the pick 6. He hits with reckless abandonment. And I feel like he's kind of, I don't want to say reeled that back to some extent, because I still feel like he's such a violent tackler. Saw something on my light. I had to rub it off. But I'm becoming more of a fan of his, and probably someone that's going to be rising on my board. I'm going to stay on the defensive side. Just Sheen Davis, edge out of Wake Forest. I actually didn't talk about him in the offseason. He didn't crack my top, what would be my top 10, and he's kind of a midday 3 for me, though. I'm probably gonna slide him up a little bit because the production's been really, really good for him this year. For Wake Forest, granted, like the best teams they've played this year is like Vandy, but it'll get the competition will get better. Coming in at 6'3", 250 this past week against Old Dominion. 6 pressures, 4 sacks, that's right, and 4 defensive stops. You love to see it. He actually had a big year last year for Wake Forest, as I think he played every game, but I don't think he started until like the final 4 or 5 games last year for Wake Forest. But he had 40 pressures, 7 sacks, and even the year before, where he had 6 starts in 13 games, he had 7 sacks in 2021. So you love to see it, but incredible first step. This dude explodes off the line like no other. He turns speed into power like no other. He just plays fast all the time, does a good job of staying low, gaining leverage. He attacks with very quick hands, shows good hand-eye coordination with his strikes, and the dude just plays with a big motor. And I love that. I love guys that play with big motors. I love that their motor's always humming and always hot, that they're just flying everywhere around the field. And you can kind of see that with him when it comes to his pass rush, because he will win with second or third effort if he's thwarted on his initial approach as a pass rusher. And the dude's got a stupid, wickedly strong upper body, and I think his power will translate to the NFL, which is a big reason why I'm moving him up my list, just because power means something in the NFL. It truly does. And I mean, the biggest gripes with him might be the lack of ideal length and bend as a pass rusher. But I mean, he's shown that he can win in spite of that he can win with that leverage. He can win with that effort. He can win with that power. Again, as quick as his hands are, I don't think his hand usage is the most ideal, and that's just a technique thing. I mean, I think that's just something they can develop with him at the next level, whether it's the amount of tools in your pass rush toolbox, or how you're using your hands and how you can be more disciplined and more advantageous with your hands. Because there are times you do look at him, he's not really playing half of a man. And it's like, if you're not doing that, then you're just going to be struggling, man. You're just going to be struggling. But I do like him. He's on the up and up for me. And then let's finish on a downer. We're going to talk about Joe Milton. I say downer, but really downer for those that probably had him as a first round prospect or even a second rounder. If you're not new to the channel, you know I wasn't terribly high on Joe Milton the third coming to the season. I had him as a fifth rounder because I looked at him and I was like, you know what, great size, but he's just got a big arm. It's not like he's terrible, it's not like he's incredibly athletic either, but everyone's just looking at that arm and they're just like, oh, that arm, and he's plays for Tennessee, he's gonna look so good. And not to say he's looked bad this season, it just feels kind of stagnant for him. Like his outing against Florida, it wasn't great, but it wasn't like terrible. Two touchdowns. He went 20 for 34 for almost 300 yards. Did throw a pick. Also had a fumble. But my biggest gripe with him is just how inaccurate he is. In this game, if you look at his adjusted completion percentage, it's 64.5%, and this is in Heupel's offense, which creates a lot of space. You just got to be able to put the ball on the money and then let your playmakers do the rest. And it's just kind of not been that. I mean, and they're fed a lot of screens in this system as well. So when you look at the adjusted completion percentage, which is taken out spikes, taken out throwaways, taken out drops by receivers, that's just not an impressive number. Like currently he's at 71.3 on the season, which still, like, it's not impressive, but it's not bad. Once you dip below 70, then it's very worrisome. And in all honesty, it wouldn't surprise me if he does. I really do think he is that inaccurate. He is a guy with a big arm. It's like, yeah, he can make special throws with that arm, but at the end of the day, I don't see consistency on the throw-to-throw basis from him. So I'm probably gonna keep him in the midday 3 area for now, but that's just kind of where I'm at when it comes to Joe Milton. Again, Tennessee, they lose this week. I think there's some, aren't they? Like they have a massive losing streak against Florida when it comes to playing in the swamp, right? I think so. But at the end of the day, man, this team just they got out physical. They got manhandled. So tough day at the office for Tennessee, but that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. The voice, it's feeling so much better. And I'm hoping to get the power rankings video to y'all later tonight. So be on the look for that. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.